Welcome back, True Believers and Spectacular Spidey fans, to another Spider-Man PS4 related video, and in this video we are going to be reviewing the overall open world gameplay demo that was shown off at E3 for the game. Now specifically for me, since I got to play the demo up to 5 times while I was there, I think I've got a really good perspective about how the game felt, how it played, how it looked, and how I personally feel about it after waiting to play the game for over 2 years, and being able to finally play the demo at E3 was a mind-blowing experience. However, of course, I'm going to try and be very rational and very realistic when it comes to reviewing the game, and try and not let my emotions for the game get in the way of that. So the overall demo for me playing it the first time was of course amazing, but after I got to play it more and more and more, I started to kind of tone down my excitement a little bit and just kind of view it from a more realistic standpoint, trying to see if there were any glitches like I brought up in my flaws video. So here, we're just going to go over the overall demo that I got to play at E3. Now keep in mind, I'm saying that we are reviewing the demo of the game that is not finished yet, not the full game, but just the demo that Insomniac provided to everyone attending E3 and what I felt from it. So we are going to start off with, of course, what I believe is one of the most beautiful parts about the game is the graphics. And of course, when you see the demo for the first time in that footage, you just press X to start and you immediately just go. You go into playing as Spider-Man, and just the feeling and that exhilaration of swinging for the very first time in the game with the beautiful cityscape that you can explore is absolutely mind-blowing. The scope of the city is huge, the lighting of everything in the city is well detailed, and the fact that Spider-Man can just seamlessly go from fighting and swinging, and there's no frame issues whatsoever when they're seamlessly transitioning between all these different parts of the game is fantastic. And of course, all the textures in the city are well rendered and detailed. The buildings look great, cars look great, citizens, even though some of them didn't look like they were having a lot of emotions on their face, they're detailed, like their clothes and their designs look really well done, and I think that the overall product that we're going to get in September is just going to be more polished and even better than what we saw in all the demo footage. Next up on the list is actually the soundtrack of the game. Now, following up with the amazing graphics of all the well-detailed parts of the city and all the enemies that you can fight in the game as well, the soundtrack for this game goes a really long way. The fact that you can go into a fight and go back into swinging, and the soundtrack is an extremely cinematic score, and the fact that you actually feel like you are playing a movie in the best way possible. Of course, this is a video game, but if you're a fan of the Sam Raimi movies, or even the Mark Webb Spider-Man movies, or even the MCU movies, the soundtrack really accompanies what you're doing in the game in a really well-detailed manner. When you're swinging, it feels very heroic, very orchestral. When you're fighting, it ramps up more, it gets more intense, it gets more cinematic and more energetic as well. You're on your edge of your seat when you're trying to fight enemies and not die, and also try and put up a really good fight when fighting them with all these different moves. The soundtrack accompanies that in a really great way, especially when you're doing an awesome thing like fighting bosses like Shocker in the demo. The soundtrack picks up really well, and it fits each part of the game perfectly. From when I played, I thought it was fantastic, and I can't wait to see what the other types of soundtrack is going to be when the full game releases. Now, actually moving on to a part of the game that not a lot of people have talked about yet is actually the really superb voice acting from Yuri Lowenthal as Spider-Man. Now, of course, there are other people in the game that we don't know for sure just yet, like the actors who are voicing Mary Jane, Yuri Watanabe, Harry Osborn, and the other characters that you can encounter in the game, like Shocker, for example, or Mr. Negative. We don't know any of those other voice actors. The only one that we do know for sure now is Yuri Lowenthal as Peter Parker / Spider-Man, and for me personally, I already thought he was going to do a great job, but actually being able to play the game and hear his dialogue when he's swinging and fighting enemies, he is perfect. The way on how he delivers his lines with a very lighthearted and comedic tone, I find it to be really Spider-Man-esque. I think that he fits the role really well, and for those of you who love Josh Keaton or Christopher Daniel Barnes as your favorite voice actor, I think you are really going to like how Yuri Lowenthal is approaching Spider-Man in this game. He's very funny, he's very lighthearted, and of course he's also very serious when it needs to be, because there is a part in the demo where he says damn, and he's actually using, you know, kind of intense language for a really intense scene. And also when he's fighting Shocker, he's more lighthearted and funny, and also when he's talking to the thugs, he's having a fun time, he's messing with them. And one of my favorite lines from him is that he says, "Oh no, stockbrokers." I really laughed when he said that, because it was really hilarious, and it totally took me off guard from this intense scenario that I found myself in, fighting all these henchmen and these inner demons in this warehouse, and then I hear Yuri Lowenthal's voice acting come in a really hilarious way. And even though we've seen just bits and pieces of that in the demo, and a lot of that, though, in the Raft breakout mission, I'm definitely excited to see how Yuri's voice acting is going to go as the game progresses, and just seeing how more gameplay elements are going to be implemented within the full game. I think Yuri Lowenthal is going to be a really standout part about the game because he's doing a great job as Spider-Man, in my opinion. So another really important point that you have to talk about when you're making an open-world Spider-Man game, besides the fact that you can freely swing around the city as much as you want, there's actually also lots and lots of side activities that were in the demo of the game. And the fact that Insomniac have said that there's going to be way more by the time the full game releases gets me really, really excited, because in the demo you basically had quite a few of side objectives to go and do if you wanted to. You could go and take out henchmen on the Fisk Tower, you can go and fight inner demons in a warehouse, you could do 3 Harry Osborn research stations that were for Oscorp by doing some puzzles, or stopping some, like, water towers that were leaking, or actually just collecting some data samples, which is really reminiscent of the PS1 Spider-Man game, where they have a lot of fog in the city, and you get, damaged if you fall into the fog. It's really reminiscent of that old game, and it's awesome. And also the fact that you can go and collect backpacks to get experience and get more updates about Peter's backstory from this character's, background in the game, because since Insomniac is doing a new take on Spider-Man, if you collect all the backpacks, you do in fact get more information about how Peter started as Spider-Man, with little references of things like his wrestling poster, or a game console that he had, or a selfie that he took. I love that detail that they put in for a really awesome collectible in the game. And just these challenges as well. The fact that you can replay all these challenges whenever you want to get more experience and also hone your skills more as Spider-Man is really, really well thought out. And also doing things like the bomb challenges, or chasing drones, or doing all these cool race type things in the game as well, along with these really detailed side missions that give more emphasis on the story, is really, really great, and how Insomniac is handling that open world aspect of the game that a lot of Spider-Man fans love, and that a lot of people were worried about in this game actually, is that are we going to be able to do a lot of things in the city? Is it not just swinging? Is there actually stuff to do? And yes, the fact that the city is huge, and you have all these side objectives, along with random crimes popping up wherever you are, whenever you are in the story, and just definitely expecting a really intense challenge at some points, because a random crime could turn into an actual fight within the city, or it could actually turn into a car chase later on that actually involves more guns, more bombs, more henchmen to fight, more civilians to save in a really cool way. And that was just the demo that they didn't fully finish yet. So by the time the full game comes out with that gameplay detail, I'm really, really excited to see how that's going to be shown in the full game when it comes out in September, because I think Insomniac's doing a great job with the side activities, and I can't wait to see what the rest are going to look like. And like I touched upon earlier, another really important part, besides the fact that you have lots of stuff to do in the city, is actually the city itself with how big it is. Now in the demo we only had one little section of New York to explore in, which was, I believe, Chinatown and parts of Midtown. However, if you've seen the full scope of the entirety of the big full map that they've shown, it's huge. It is really, really huge. Even though it is the one island of Manhattan, the fact that this map is 4 to 6 times bigger than Sunset Overdrive, there is lots and lots of stuff to explore in the city, and the fact that you have to traverse around the city in a fast-paced way is actually really, really fun, because that's why they added a fast travel system. Not only is this city so huge that they had to implement a fast travel system, but the swinging is actually going to have you to take some time to master and actually keep going faster through swinging to get to different parts of the city. You have to mix and match things like parkour, wall running, web zipping, all that stuff, and the fact that the city is so huge that you're going to have to take time to get from one part of the city to the next is really, really great and well thought out, because you don't want to have the city to be too small or too big, because some players might even get lost in that map. But the fact that the city is big enough for you to explore in and actually try and master the traversal in a really cool way, with the different landmarks that are in the city, how big it is just for one small district. Even though that one part of the demo was one tiny district, it was really, really big to get from one part of that one district to the next, and it's great how much detail Insomniac is putting within the scope of the city. And I know for a fact I just can't wait to see how fully detailed they're going to make the city by the time the full game releases. So another really important point about the game that I was actually really interested to see is the boss battles that were implemented within the demo, and the only one that we got was for Shocker. Now again, some of the boss battles in past Spider-Man games have been very easy to do, a la Spider-Man 2 or The Amazing Spider-Man 2, specifically The Amazing Spider-Man 2, because in Spider-Man 2 you just had to kind of punch the enemies back and forth, dodge an attack here and there, but specifically for The Amazing Spider-Man 2, all you had to do was button mash, and then that was it. Here, there is actually a lot of depth and detail for these boss fights, for what I found when fighting Shocker for the first time. As you saw from my footage when I actually got to fight Shocker the first time, I didn't see that battle be played out because I didn't want to spoil myself when playing the demo. So when I actually got to fight Shocker in the game for the very first time, that was my very first time actually seeing that whole fight be played out. And I was so blown away by how awesome the entrance of the villain was, how it actually is important for the story to have Spider-Man fight against Shocker in this point in the game, and the fact that the intricacies of the combat are very well thought out when it comes to fighting the boss in a really different way, from using your environment, dodging at certain times, using different attacks to deal more damage. It's really, really well detailed, and the fact that they give you a lot of options and variety when fighting a boss in this game is great. Because where there's Shocker, he has a force field around him, and you have to throw objects at him to take the force field off, and then go up to him and attack him, or you can parkour over objects to dodge his attacks, swing around, just go up and close and just see if you can deal with him up close and personal and see if that works out for you. There's a lot of different maneuvers and mechanics with this boss fight, and specifically trying to deal with it for the first time, not knowing if you're going to die or not, because it's a really, really well thought out challenge, from mixing and matching things like your moves that you've used on other thugs, like dodging, attacking, using your webs, and also doing really thought out detailed moves like the suit powers, like the Web Blossom, or also using the Focus Mirror to do finishing moves on Shocker. I didn't even know that you could do finishing moves on Shocker until Brian Inhar told me himself. So that shows how well thought out the boss fights are, where you can discover something new every time you fight a boss. And seeing how, for me, I thought Shocker was a really good challenge, and it was on the default difficulty. So seeing how challenging for me I found him, I'm really curious to see how the other boss fights like Scorpion and Electro and Mr. Negative, how those are going to work out. And I'm really excited to see how that's going to be played out in the game, because I think Shocker was a great fight for a demo, and I can't wait to see how the big boss fights are going to be by the time the full game comes out. Now, the other really important point that I want to bring up besides the boss battles is, of course, the combat that goes along with it. I already kind of just skimmed about that really quickly, but there is a lot of awesome stuff to be detailed about this game's combat. And specifically, the main point I want to bring up right here is that it is not like Arkham at all. Get that out of your head right now. This combat is 100% different from Arkham. Granted that Insomniac have stated that they were inspired by the Arkham combat and actually the other combat systems from the past Spider-Man games. However, when you actually get your hands on the game yourself, you will find out very, very quickly on how different this is from Arkham. And the best way to describe it is, like Insomniac have said already, is that Spider-Man is in fact an acrobatic improviser, and that also means that since he's been experienced for so long as Spider-Man, you're going to have to mix and match moves with your different techniques that you've learned for the past Spider-Man games into this one by using your webs, dodging, and of course attacking, also while using traversal into the combat as well, which is something that I love that they're doing in this game. And what you do is that, of course, square is your main attack button. Triangle is actually a kind of web yank button where you can use it to either pull an enemy towards you or pour yourself towards an enemy, which is very, very well thought out when it comes to the controls that they give you when the demo is shown on the screen with the different control layout that they give, and also dodging with circle, not countering. So there is no counter button in this game, but rather a dodge mechanic, just like in Spider-Man 2 and also Ultimate Spider-Man, which I really, really like, and especially how well it flows with the combat. You're going to learn really, really quickly on how helpful the dodge button is in the game's combat. And specifically, you have to mix and match attacking with webbing and using your gadgets. Gadgets is actually a really big essential part of the combat if you want to make it much easier for you when fighting a bunch of enemies that are surrounding you all at once. If you have a huge crowd of enemies, you could just go and attack them by using your fists or using your webs, but if you use your web tripwire, your web bomb, or your web shooters, you're actually going to find it to be much, much easier to take out these enemies and thin the crowd in order for you to get that advantage on these thugs that you are trying to get one at a time or all at once. And the fact that they give you a lot of variety, you can use your environment, you can stealth enemies by either hanging upside down, sneaking behind them, going on a perch point, or using your environment like pulling down rafters or actually pulling down barrels, throwing barrels at enemies, kicking them off buildings, which then they will automatically stick to the side of the building. All the detail that was thought into this combat system is excellent, and you actually have to control Spider-Man with skill and style, because when you mix and match button presses in Arkham, when you do circle, for example, and then spam square, that executes that really fast beatdown move that Batman does in the game. Whereas this, you actually have to really think about how you want to take an enemy out. You can either attack them on the ground or kick them up in the air and then attack them while you are still in the air, or use your webs to try and get like the sneak on someone and try and web them up while webbing them up to another guy, throwing them into a wall in a really fun way. And since Spider-Man's strong, he can actually pick up thugs and throw them into another thugs, or throw them exactly on a wall, wherever you want. It's really, really fun. And also the fact that it comes with a combo and move list. So with square, pretty much square is your standard combo. Triangle, you can mix that with trying to throw enemies or yank them towards you. But if you do a move like square, triangle, square, you'll actually hit an enemy, kick them up, throw them down, and then kick them away from you afterwards. So there's a lot of detailed moves that, like what Brian Notaro has said, every time you do the combat, you'll always learn something new about it. And that's what I really liked about the demo when I got to play it, is the combat. Because even though I knew for a fact that the traversal was going to be great, I was actually concerned if the combat was actually going to be on par with Arkham, or even better than Arkham. And even though I can't make that assumption yet if it is better than Arkham, I know for a fact that it will be a combat system that fans will love, and you will actually have to get used to it for a pretty long time. You won't get it right away. You're actually going to have to learn some different moves in order for you to take out these thugs in a more precise way, instead of just button mashing, where that's just simple. Nothing is really going to get done if you just button mash. Sure, you'll take them out, but if you take them out with actually using different combos, you'll take them out with more damage and get more experience while fighting them, which is a great detail that they put in the combat system. And I can't wait to see the other gadgets that are going to be implemented within the full game, because I already know for a fact the web tripwire is my favorite gadget right now, but I can't wait to see what the other gadgets are going to be. And I can't wait to see how the spider drone is going to work in combat too, because that's just going to be amazing. So after the combat, after the traversal, after all the great stuff that I brought up earlier, the final point, which is the last point that I want to bring up for all you guys, is of course the web swinging. And of course, we've already talked about the graphics, we already talked about the soundtrack, we talked about the voice acting from Yuri Lowenthal, which I think is great. We talked about how big the city is and how big you're going to feel when swinging around the city as Spider-Man, how huge the scope of the map is. It's fantastic. The side activities, there's a plethora of side missions for you to do in the game, and of course the boss battles I personally find very, very challenging, and I can't wait to see how they're going to be played in the full game. But the one thing that of course everyone wants this Spider-Man game for, and everyone hopes it can beat, is Spider-Man 2 with this game's traversal. And my god, I know for a fact this game is going to deliver. Honestly, I think that this game's traversal is in fact going to beat Spider-Man 2's traversal and be the best web swinging in any Spider-Man game of all time. How it works is so well thought out, and like Insomniac have said, this was the first thing they wanted to work on when making this game, is the traversal, and it definitely shows. When you swing, you get the sense of this velocity really, really fast, and you build up the momentum of each swing. And when you swing, you go faster and faster and faster and faster and faster, and every time that you keep doing more moves as well, not only does it increase your focus bar, like I brought up in another video, it actually allows you to go faster as well by mixing and matching these different moves together. You can go and web swing only if you want to, but it will be a very smart move of you to mix all the different traversal aspects that you have thought throughout the game and use it to your full potential. Web swinging, wall running, parkouring, all these cool moves with the web tunnel and the web zipping, and zipping just by pressing X, or web zipping to a perch point to jump off of it, pole swinging. You can also interact with fire escapes to push yourself off them and get more of a speed boost. You can even jump off cars while swinging. The detail of it is insane, and I knew since day one that Insomniac was going to nail it, and they absolutely did. The feeling that you also get by being able to control diving off of a building and going back into a swing is so seamless and also so detailed. You feel in control of Spider-Man. You feel like you are going into a full dive and then swinging at the last second before hitting the pavement. Even though there's no fall damage, there's no really any aspect for you to fall to the ground anyway. You're going to be wanting to be up in the sky the entire time, swinging and doing all these cool moves regardless. Sure, you can fall and not get damaged, but the fact that you actually want to encourage yourself to stay in the air, stay swinging, stay doing all these cool moves. That's what this game's all about, and that's what they learned from Sunset Overdrive, that's what they learned from the past Spider-Man games, and that's what they're doing with this game, implementing all the mechanics of a timed jump. When you land on the ground, you have to tap X afterwards to get a timed jump to launch yourself in the air, time swings, swing tricks if you time your swing just the right moment, web zipping through different objects like the web tunnel to get more of a momentum boost, using physics by having the webs actually attached to buildings, having Spider-Man in full control. You can swing to the left after you hit R2, swing to the right, swing backwards if you want to, you can pull back on your swing, you can shoot out 2 webs to zip yourself forward, or shoot out 2 webs to launch yourself upward if you want to. It's insane, and the detail that Insomniac have definitely put into this game is hands down the best part about it. And I know for a fact that since a lot of people are just mainly caring about the traversal and nothing else, you're going to be very, very satisfied when the final game comes, because Brian, like he said, Brian Inar, he stated that not only are they adding more animations within the combat, because they only added in a few for the demo, they're also adding in animations for the traversal that we haven't seen as well, because I know a lot of you have said that the move where he twists around is shown off the entire time, and some of you guys think that's repetitive. Me, I never found it repetitive. I always thought it was so fun being able to do that in the game, but I do see what you mean. But no fret, Insomniac have confirmed there will be more animations added for the combat and traversal, and I already know for a fact that it's going to blow you away when you are actually able to play it if you didn't get to play it at E3. So everybody, that was my full review of the demo for Spider-Man PS4. Overall, this game is shaping up to be one of the greatest Spider-Man experiences ever released, ever, for a video game, and I just am so honored that I was able to play it at E3 and show off my footage to you guys. If you have any questions about the demo, specifically with some controls, because I know some of you guys are wondering about that, let me know in the comments section down below. What was your favorite part about the footage that you've seen from the demo, or if you actually got to play it? Did you think the same thing that I thought, or actually do you think it's just another Spider-Man game, or do you think it's below average or anything like that? I would love to hear your thoughts in the comment section down below. Me, I'm loving everything about the demo. I think that Insomniac knocked it out of the park, and I can't wait until September, because if the demo was already fantastic, the final game is going to be amazing. But anyways, guys, thank you all so much for watching. Stay spectacular, Spidey fans. Peace out.